Big news, friends. After almost 3 years here on the Marketing Moms podcast, we are sunsetting.
Yep.
I don't want to say we're calling it quits. That feels so sad.
It does feel sad. We are stepping away permanently from
More,
the podcast.
yeah, more to come about what that is. We do intend to go all the way to episode 150, but we wanted to let you all know now, here, a few episodes early, because we want to hear from you. What
Mm-hmm.
have been your favorite moments, memories, questions, comments, anything about the podcast? We would love to hear from you and read your comments or questions on the last episode. And so if you would, please submit those. Either find us on Instagram at Marketing Moms Podcast or email us at contact@marketingmoms.co. We would be happy to, like I said, take any questions, comments, even if you tell us you want yourself to be anonymous, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. What have the last 3 years meant to you? Because we know what it's meant to us. And again, we'll talk more about that soon. But we wanted to get this out now so you had time to submit your questions or comments before we recorded that last episode. So, Angela, take it away for today's episode.
All right. Today we are going to be talking about the idea that your worth is not your productivity. And this is not a phrase that I came up with. It's one that I hear thrown around quite a bit. And this episode is inspired, in fact, by a TikTok or an Instagram reel that Jessie sent me. Balancing building a successful business and being a superstar mom is hard. And yet, in today's digital world, it's more common than ever.
The question becomes, how do we successfully grow a business and children at the same time?
Join us for a candid conversation as we share our insights into marketing and motherhood. I'm Angela Reeder.
And I'm Jessie Valle. Welcome to the Marketing Moms Podcast.
So as one of the eldest of the elder millennials, who grew up her entire high school being called Gen X, I can say that there was a lot of pressure growing up to do all the things, be all the stuff, get all the good grades, have the perfect attendance. I know that individually that pressure, varied household to household, but I feel like societally there was a big push for get good grades, go to college, get a good job. There was a very structured plan and everything was very prescribed for us.
Mm-hmm.
And our value, I guess, was determined by a lot of those things. Did you do well in sports? Did you get good grades in school? Did you have perfect attendance? We have the awards ceremony at the end of the school year to give out all the things for all the kids that did all the great stuff. And I the Instagram reel that Jessie sent me had kind of touched on that and how we carry that into being adults and looking for that next thing of I have to accomplish this thing so that I can have done a thing, have value. And I hadn't really thought about it like that before, but that really that hit hard.
Yeah, it hit a chord. That's why the moment I saw it, I'm like, oh, I need to send this to Angela. It was just wow, just having someone verbalize what's been inside and having me realize that it wasn't necessarily something that I put on myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, personality plays a part.
Yeah.
Which I've clearly learned with my own children because my daughter is showing such perfectionism tendencies that I'm trying to help her not feel that way.
Right.
But at the same time, I remember even as a teacher, how do you grade kids? It is
right.
I remember sitting there, and I know that not every teacher was like me, but I would sit there, especially on projects, and figure out how to reward effort
Mhm.
and not make a project could look terrible and still get an A because of the
Yeah.
effort, because of the
Mhm.
energy, because of the trying of the child, not because they did it perfectly and they're an amazing artist or something like that.
Right.
And so I know that it was really hard because then when it came down to a test or something like that, what did you score? I
Yeah.
mean, it was really hard to reward kids for effort even when they weren't perfect, which is crazy because I used to tell people, and I still do to this day, that making mistakes helps us grow. And
Mhm.
yet Angela and I grew up in an age where mistakes are weakness.
Yes.
And even to this day, if like I don't necessarily talk about parts of myself that weren't perfect.
Mhm.
Like I played softball a lot as a kid, and all through high school I was on the softball team, but I was on JV. And I don't talk about myself being a softball player because I wasn't varsity. Now don't get me wrong.
Right.
Senior year I had to play varsity a few times because if you're not good enough for varsity, that's the other thing. If you're not good enough for varsity by senior year, they kick you off the team.
Right.
Lucky for me, they needed more pitchers, and I was a pitcher, and so they let me stay. I played a few games varsity and a lot of games JV, which is where my talents lie. Let's just say I'm not the best athlete. But it's like I don't even tell people I played softball because I wasn't perfect. I wasn't varsity.
Mhm.
And that's silly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It I I think we grew up, and there still is, but I think much more so in the 80s and 90s. There was this idea that if you were doing well, if you were getting good grades, if you were a good athlete, if you were whatever, it inherently meant you were trying hard. And if you
Mhm.
weren't doing well, you weren't a good athlete, or you didn't play sports, or you didn't get good grades, then you just weren't trying. Um, I know I heard that a lot growing up, and I think it was kind of a societal viewpoint. And that's not necessarily true. Like some people are just naturally better at school. Not that they're smarter, they're just naturally better at the way school is structured.
Oh, you mean giving the teacher what they want?
Yes, they're naturally better at giving the teacher. I was telling my oldest because she's in high school now. She wants to get the like super fancy high school degree. They didn't even offer it at my school. It was too small. But she's looking at taking AP classes and possibly getting some college credits before she graduates. And she was worried about, the classes and taking, advanced English and whatever. And she was asking me about my classes. And I said, I did really well in English with essays if grammar and spelling and all of that wasn't as big a factor as what was being
Mhm.
said, because I was really good at saying things in a way that the teacher liked to hear it. And so it just like masked the fact that I am terrible at spelling and grammar. If I
And
had a teacher
nowadays
where
we have Grammarly.
Now we have Grammarly. If I had a teacher where all they cared about was like the actual structure and like grammar and all of that, every time I got terrible grades on essays.
Yeah.
But I was really good in school at giving teachers what they wanted. And so I think because we have that idea of like, if you're doing well, you're trying hard, it's easy to dismiss the effort people are putting in to do okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. It reminds me of this person I know. She's one of the best copywriters I know. Like, she's made her living writing words. And she had one college professor tell her she was a terrible writer, basically, and it like dashed her
Hmm.
dreams. I'm so glad that it didn't stop her forever because one person's opinion, it's so hard to say. It changes the way you think about things. But it also
Yeah.
reminds us that there are different ways to be good at something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I grew up telling myself I was not a creative person because I'm not
Mm,
good at art and drawing.
same.
I'm like, so silly because now as an adult, I'm like, wow, I am creative, but I have to find my own creativity, which for me, it's in technology and automations
Mm-hmm.
and these things that's what lights me up. And that's my creative tech because people are like, oh, I never would have thought to do it that way.
Yeah.
And now also in adulthood, I've picked up painting watercolor for no reason other than it makes me happy. I'm not good, but I can say I can do it because it makes me happy. And it doesn't matter that I'm not the world's greatest watercolor painter. I know
Yeah.
I'm not selling these things, but it's just like it's okay to not be perfect at something and still enjoy it.
Yes. And I think, like you were saying with the grading the projects, one of the things that we gain out of school accidentally is that there's only one way to do a thing, because
Mm,
there's only one way to get a right answer or one way to get the points on the project. And if you're not someone that's good at that, then, that's kind of difficult and you get frustrated. And if you are someone that's good at that, that becomes like a lifeline. And that was kind of what the video that Jessie had sent me was talking about, was that you get stuck on having that next hurdle, having that next thing to get, that next A to get, that next game to win. And then you grow up and you become an adult. There's no more tests. You don't have a test every Friday. There's no more games on the weekends.
hmm
Like, you just have just an endless expanse of being an adult. And so how do you find your value if there's nobody there to grade you?
Which it by default turned into your career.
Mhm. Yeah, because there are
So
standards and metrics when it comes to your career.
that's true. It's interesting because sometimes you do step back and think about, okay, so if someone when you meet someone for the first time, do you immediately tell them what you do for a job? I mean, is that what defines you?
Right. Yeah. That's that's hard. And I think a lot of us do that. And I think, going way, way back to a previous episode, I think that was one of the reasons we had cited as people having a hard time telling people about their businesses, because they didn't feel like a real business owner.
Because it wasn't perfect.
Because it wasn't perfect. They weren't making a whole bunch of money. They weren't a six-figure business. They were just a little business. And so it didn't feel like you could say, I'm a business owner. Like,
It's a really good
but
point.
career, business, things like that, we fall down the rabbit hole of like getting that validation, because, like, as moms, there are 100,000 ways to be a good mom. There are very few objective measurements for what makes a good mom.
Mhm.
Like, and so it's like, I'm a good mom. My kids are happy. Everybody says I'm a good mom, but there's nothing there objectively to validate that statement. But if I go to work and I do a good job and I meet my metrics, I can see that on the chart, or I can
Mhm.
see that in my pay raises. Like, I can see that objective measurement that I am surpassing. And it's easy to get hung up on that and make that be a part of your life, and feel like, if you don't have the stress of trying to meet those goals and meet those measurements, that you're not trying. And that's not true. It's okay to not be stressed.
Yeah. Now, I will say that it's not okay not to give effort at work.
Sure. Yeah. No,
But that doesn't
definitely give effort.
define yeah, definitely give effort. But it doesn't define who you are, and it just doesn't define what kind of person you are at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Your value as a person doesn't come from any objective measurement from work or school or anything like that. And it's easy for us to see that in our kids. Like, it's easy for us to look at our kids and be like, yeah, they're not great at spelling, but they're a great kid. They're a great person. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't matter that they can't spell, or it doesn't matter they struggle to read, or they're not very good at math. Like, those things don't matter. But then when we look at ourselves,
Mhm.
it's, oh, I just can't figure this thing out at work, or I just can't make this client happy, or you know what I mean? It's harder to look at that and remind ourselves that who we are and our value as a person doesn't have anything to do with anything with work.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, other than having work be an expression of who you are as a person. So,
Yeah.
expressing your values of loyalty and hard work and
Hmm.
dedication and things like that. Yeah, it's interesting because that Instagram reel also talked about how stress is kind of like the crutch we use. Like, we're stressed,
Hmm.
we want to be less stressed, but in order to be less stressed, we give ourselves more stress.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I thought about it, I'm like, that's kind of, I don't know. When my personality is, when I'm really stressed, I become micromanagey, which, guess what that
Hmm.
means? It means I put more on my plate.
Yeah.
So for me and my personality, that makes sense.
Well, and I think, like, for me, when I get really stressed, I tend to shut down. Like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to be, but that just leads to more stress because I know I should be doing XYZ. So now
Mhm.
I'm stressed that I'm not doing XYZ because I'm stressed out.
Mhm.
Um, and I like the other thing that it said about stress being almost like an addiction. Like,
Mhm.
if you're not stressed, you seek out ways to be stressed. Like, if everything's going great, everything's going fine, you find something to be
Yeah.
stressed about.
Yeah.
Like, I have relatively objectively had a pretty good week this week. I got a new water heater, I got a new water
Mhm.
softener, I got a new dishwasher. It was amazing. I stress cleaned my entire kitchen last night because we have bought all of those things. Like, because I couldn't just be like, okay, I mean, I have the things, I needed them, the funds were there, and we bought them, and it's amazing and exciting, and I can just enjoy it. Like, no, I can't just enjoy. I have
Mhm.
to be stressed about something. There has to be something there. Um, have you ever had like a really, really good day and then got at the end of the day and been like, I know I'm forgetting something. I know I forgot to do something important. I'm going to get up in the morning and like I'm going to
Yeah.
have email from a client, or I'm going to have missed a bill. Like, I just
Yeah.
know I'm forgetting because today was too good.
Well, okay, you saying that makes me think, when was the last time we had a really good day? Because the truth of the matter is I don't think we allow ourselves to call a day good,
That's true. There always has to be something.
because we always try to focus on something that's not great. But
Yeah.
really, I'm sure we could turn any day into a good day if we
Yes.
looked at it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to the idea of like, if it's easy, you're not trying hard.
Yeah.
If you have a good day, it's because you were being lazy. Like, no, I just had a good day. Everything went right for once. And like, all my work went the way it was supposed to. All of the automations fired the way they were supposed to.
Mhm.
All of the clients were happy. It was just a good day. But there's that part of your brain that says, if it was easy, you're not trying hard enough.
You missed
You missed
something.
something. You forgot something, or you're not trying hard enough.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know that there's an answer to that, except maybe just to acknowledge that that's a thing, to recognize I'm not stressed because there's a thing to be stressed about. I'm stressed because I don't have a thing to be stressed about, because my brain and my body craves those chemicals that come
Yeah.
from being stressed.
Yeah. It's an addiction. It's interesting. I don't even remember what it was because it was so dumb. But I was standing there like, okay, well, I'm worried about this and this and this. And then I was like, wait, if I'm worried about these things in my life's pretty darn good.
Right? It's
Because
like
on
the
that list was not, do I have a roof over my head? Do I have food in my
right.
belly? Do I have clothes on
Yeah.
my back? No,
How am
it
I going to feed
was
my kids tonight?
No, it was how am I, something like how can I take a vacation? I don't know, something silly. And it's like, okay, life's pretty good.
Yeah. It's like the old internet thing, first world problems.
Yes. Yes.
Which,
Really.
I mean, there are problems that are problems, and there are things that are okay to be stressed about. It's okay to be stressed if your business hasn't done very well this month and money is a little tight. It's okay to be stressed about that. But if you've had an amazing month in your business and everything's going really well, like, it's okay to enjoy that.
Mhm.
It's okay to just sit back and go, I'm really good at this. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're not working hard. It doesn't mean you're not trying.
Mhm.
It's like we talked about, the things we're good at seem easy. So it's hard to charge people money to do them because
Yeah.
it seems really easy. Like, I don't want to charge somebody to do this thing. It takes like 5 minutes. Well, it doesn't take
Mhm.
them 5 minutes. It takes them an hour and 4 phone calls to tech support to get
Yeah.
that done. Like, but it feels easy, so it doesn't feel valuable.
Right. Right. And that's just not true.
Yep.
Hmm. All right. Well, I say we leave you today thinking
Yes.
about how releasing your tie to what you accomplish as your self-worth, whether that be at a job or just around the house stress cleaning, Angela.
Yeah.
Your worth is not tied to how clean your kitchen is, but rather kind of figure out what you do want your worth to be tied to. Because for most
Mhm.
of us, I would like to venture and say that it is probably what kind of a person you are,
Yeah.
not your output for today.
Yeah. Yep. You can have a good day and not get anything done. And you can have
And
a
yet
bad day
still be a good
and have
person
everything done. Yes,
and
and still
still
be a
be a
good
good.
person. Either way. Yep. If you have thoughts about stress, if you have things you're stressed about, if you have anecdotes of times that you have been very, very stressed, hop on over to Instagram and share with us. We'd love to hear from you. Um, Coming up these last few weeks, as Jessie said, also, if you have any questions, comments, favorite memories from the last 3 years, reach out and let us know. We'd love to share them on the last episode.
Yep. Again, Instagram at Marketing Moms Podcast and email contact@marketingmoms.co. We'll chat at you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We're so honored this is where you chose to spend your time.
If this episode helped you in some way, please share it with another mom who needs to hear it. We're in this together.
And if you're ready for next steps, free goodies, and more, head over to marketingmomspodcast.com.
We'll see you next week.